I'm here to talk to you about what we did in 20 years in 25 minutes. So we just start with the TrueNat platform. It's a point of care molecular diagnostics platform. And I'll be basically touching about why we did this, what do we do, and what have we done so far. So Molbio is the go-to-market company, and Big Tech is the R&D company. It's separated into two separate companies, but we started off as Big Tech. What we have from the very beginning focused on is to address the need gap that exists in India for molecular diagnostics. When we started doing this work, the city of Bangalore, I think, had two real-time PCRs in clinical use, and we counted that we had about 30 real-time PCRs across the country for clinical use in the year 2000, and we felt that that is not right. So we started working on creating a platform that could be used in my village primary health center, for example, and what would it take? So today we have such a platform, and we can diagnose about 23 indications on that, and we're working on a lot more. That's the advantage of having a full-fledged separate R&D company. We were supported very extensively by the government of India very early on. In the year 2005, we got our first funding from CSIR, which is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in India. Then by DBT, the biotechnology agency in the country, then by the Indian Council of Medical Research, and also by Grand Challenges Canada, Gates Foundation, FIND, etc. So we've worked with a lot of these agencies who are responsible to a great extent for what we've done and where we are today. So briefly, we started Big Tech in the year 2000, and five of us came together. All the other four were from IT, and they were making a lot of money, and they felt that they wanted to not make so much money. So they decided to work with me to create a company that would suck in all of those funds that they were creating. And that is how we started Big Tech. We did not know what we were gunning for at that point in time, but it seemed very interesting. We had a vision for addressing the molecular diagnostic gap that existed in India. And we thought that we had the capability to do that. We had a pretty diverse group that we set up initially, working across multiple disciplines, because that's the first thing that we realized that we need to have. Our education system in India is very siloed. So either you are an engineer or you're a doctor, and or you are a biologist, and there is no crosstalk. So the first thing we realized is that this is a problem that requires to be solved, and that problem requires a multidisciplinary team. So we spent a lot of time trying to put together that team initially. And we worked on a proof of concept PCR, which we were able to show to the CSIR. New Millennium India Technology Leadership Initiative was the name of the program. And they were the most brave. They funded us as a private company, and I think we were among the first private companies to get funded that kind of money. We raised, we got $1 million in soft loan from them at that point in time. By 2008, 2009, we felt that we cracked the problem. We had a platform, it worked, and we felt that we were on top of the world, and we just had to kind of get it in the market. And that is when the fund began. We raised some money. We raised some money from private investors, some from the government, and quickly realized that it is not as easy as it seems. There was the entire validation regulation piece. Then there was this entire manufacturing piece. And there was this entire go-to-market piece, and none of us seemed to know exactly what to do. So we had a few options in front of us. Either we go ahead and collaborate with established companies in this area, and we had some interest from multinational companies at that point in time. or to work with people who were around us who had done that and whom we could interact more with, etc. And we chose the latter. We created a joint venture company with Sriram from the Tulip Group at that time. And Tulip, by that time, from India, established a pretty um, major market for rapid diagnostics around the globe with what they were doing. So they understood the manufacturing piece, at least from a regulatory perspective. They understood the regulatory piece. They understood the agencies that were involved in taking this to markets that had the most need. And we felt that our wavelengths matched. So we created this joint venture. The wavelengths matched so much that we merged the companies in 2015. And so Molbio and Big Tech are one and the same company. Um, Interestingly, Sriram had set up Molbio also in the year 2000 to work on a molecular platform that could be used at point of care. So it was kind of independent thought processes that merged together. This year, we raised private equity funding from one of India's largest private equity investors, which is Motilal Oswal. So our platform in brief is the sample preparation part. And I have a story here that I should say, I must say, this was one of the big mistakes that we had. We were focusing on PCR, and we were so excited to get PCR on chip. And the chip is the third drawing that you see. There's a low temperature co-fired ceramic chip. This is a material typically used in space applications. And we felt really cool about the fact that we took something like that and we were able to do very good thermal cycling very quickly. We had a good IP position around it, and we were able to show PCR. And every time somebody asked me, but what would you do for prep? I used to feel very unhappy. I used to think that they're taking away from what we've achieved with the PCR, till I realized that it was a very, very serious bottleneck. If you could do PCR at point of care, how are you going to prepare your sample? That is possibly even a bigger challenge than actually doing the PCR. So we had a couple of different approaches. We initially had a nanoparticle-based approach that was a semi-automated process. We found automating that a little tedious, so we moved to a nanofiber-based mesofluidic cartridge. It starts with taking anywhere between 100 to 500 microliters of the sample and gives you about 100 microliters of the elute that can be used for multiple applications, including PCR. Now, this is a multi-platform, multi-sample platform. So it can take anything from sputum to whole blood to plasma, serum, of many kinds of tissue samples, many kinds of extrapulmonary samples, including lavage samples, etc. Also stool and urine. And we have three different versions of the PCR. The prep itself takes less than 20 minutes, and the PCR takes 30 minutes. We have a single base solution, a two base solution, and a four base solution. The four base solution can run about 48 samples in an 8-hour shift. And we recently, during the COVID pandemic, have realized that all our systems can run 24/7, are being used 24/7 and being used to do about 150 samples per day at point of care. All our platforms are connected. And this is one thing that we had in India even before we had PCR. We had connectivity, and we wanted to leverage that, the mobile network. So every single device is connected using a SIM card and can be connected to a centralized reporting system like the government's cloud for TB, for example. And it can also help in monitoring and stocking laboratories, because we're talking about distributing tests to the smallest villages in a very large country, and that can be a logistical nightmare if not planned properly. You could also have real-time dashboards. You could have tests being monitored, device status, including things like whether somebody's even gone to that lab to switch on the device or not. And then auto alerts in case you're starting to see too many incidences of one particular pathogen being picked up from a particular area. So all of this is theoretically possible using a connected platform. How much it is used really depends on the public health authorities of a country and the way they want to use this data. So today we have this platform that shows you data in this form that you can see right in the center. You have PCR graphs, but there are enough intelligence algorithms built around the PCR graphs, and you do not have to see the graphs at all. You get a very simple test result, which talks about where the test was conducted, patient-specific details, as well as what is the result of the test. Uh, you also see a number of tests that are there, commercially available, some of them in development, etc. And you see three different COVID tests on this particular screen. So what we have actually achieved is to enable molecular diagnostics from being being something that only a well-equipped lab with air conditioning, with biosafety, and with very good trained manpower could do, to something that can be run anywhere. You can just open it up. All you need is a table, very minimal biosafety, and we worked a lot on that, on the biosafety aspect. We worked a lot on ensuring that this can be done by people who are minimally trained, and our typical training is 1 day. And the person, after a series of processes, starts typically running tests independently from day 3. And this is where we are. A few more images of some of the products, locations that we have. These are all at smear microscopy locations at the designated microscopy centers for TB, and run by people who were smear microscopy technicians in the past and who are now doing molecular testing. I just want to share with you our first major public health implementation that was in the state of Andhra Pradesh in India. This is a state which is about 63,000 square miles and about 5 million population with 13 districts. And it's among the most diverse states in terms of geography that you can see. You have a very large coast, and you have a very sometimes inaccessible interior. You also have very highly forested areas in the state. We were asked to deploy our devices for TB detection in the state, even before we got a WHO approval. After the ICMR approval, I'll talk about that in a minute. Here, we deployed between 13 to 17 devices per state, about 225 devices in all. And the model was that we would install, we would train, and we would manage these installations. And we essentially replaced smear microscopy throughout the state of Andhra Pradesh. And the smear technicians were running our tests. We built a dashboard that the state could access. So far, we have done more than 360,000 tests, and about 1,000 tests per day is what we're doing. We've had very interesting experiences working with the state, working on how molecular diagnostics can be implemented at these point of care locations, what could be the challenges, and how can data benefit the state. One of the ways in which data has benefited the state is to change the deployment of machines based on hotspots. And we were able to work with the state authorities to actually move devices to locations that were better served by having a higher device density. We started work on the TB test somewhere in the year 2011, once we had the MolBio joint venture going, and Sriram was very, very keen and very, very interested that we primarily focus on tuberculosis with this platform. Till then, we had malaria tests, we had hepatitis B tests, etc. But and all of them were blood based. And I'll tell you, blood is a very nice sample to work with when you consider sputum and sputum from a TB patient. And if you consider habits in India where you have tobacco chewing, you have many other things leading to very difficult inhibitors and samples. And the nature of the sample across geographies itself is something that varies tremendously physically. And working with those samples, setting up a team to actually work on those samples to understand this and cracking that was, I think, one of our biggest achievements. But multiple people from Dr. Katosh to Dr. Soumya, all of them constantly gave us encouragement that this is a problem that we could solve and we must solve. And very happy that finally a couple of years ago ICMR, after conducting very extensive evaluations, and I should tell you this is possibly India's first product that has gone into a public health system, a device product. And we must have had about 30,000 samples run during evaluation. So it was not a small evaluation, and it was spread over multiple years. It was done at reference laboratories, and then it was done at point of care locations. Point of care, we had more than 100 designated microscopy centers spread across 10 states of the country. The entire country from the north to the south was represented in these studies. And after those studies, ICMR decided that this is a test that they want to deploy. And Andhra, as I told you, was the first state to deploy this. Subsequently, we also had ICMR and FIND work together to do a global study. And we had a WHO endorsement of our TB test earlier in this year, where they found that the test had similar performance to other platforms that were used for TB detection, and also that it could be run at point of care locations. So both the TB and the resistance test, the RIF resistance test, were approved by, endorsed by WHO. The Indian TB, National TB Elimination Program today has rolled this out, and we have nearly 1,000 devices, 1,200 devices today deployed for TB detection across the country. And they would be doing about 5.9 million tests this year. Now, because this is a multi-disease platform and because this was already being rolled out, this came very handy in the COVID pandemic, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We are also working with multiple agencies for multi-country deployment. So when COVID struck earlier in this year, there was just after the time we got WHO approval, we were working on this since February, and we worked with ICMR, and we initially developed a screening test based on e-gene, and then subsequently confirmatory test based on RDRP, and now we have a triplex test along with RNA-seq that can be used for detection at point of care. Both ICMR and FIND validated this platform and found good results. This is something that I think my team and I can be extremely proud of and extremely humbled that from March onwards, this country, as in many other countries around the globe, was completely shut down for a long time. The supply chains were completely distorted. In fact, even today, worldwide supply chains for electronics, plastics, anything that you take, polycarbonate is out of stock across the country. All kinds of things that you can't even imagine started happening. And during this, we were able to deploy more than 2,000 devices across the country. So while laboratory testing scaled to about 200 different laboratories across the country, we were able to scale it a lot more and really extend the reach of India's public health system to monitor what was happening in the COVID pandemic across the country in the smallest villages of the country. We have also supplied more than 4.5 million COVID tests so far in the last 6 months. So today we have more than 3,000, approximately 3,500 devices installed in all of India's states and union territories. We have a global presence. We have presence in about 32 countries spread across the globe, and we have multiple devices in that. We're still in early stages, was waiting for our WHO approval, but we have multiple installations in Latin America, some in Africa, multiple installations in Asia, etc. This is the other challenge that we've been kind of working on. How do we scale? And we've kind of moved from our capacity of about 50,000 tests, and we would be doing about 300,000 tests a day by Jan 2021. So we invested a lot in manufacturing and in scaling. Very interesting times to kind of look at a completely different facet of the problem that we've been used to kind of addressing so far. Just wanted to talk about some of the challenges that we faced. We are 20 years old. There were many years in our early years where we did not know what the future looked like, because we were working on a test that did not exist in this country, or the adoption of that test was very minimal. And a lot of people had questions for us. You're a small Indian company. Why is Roche not having a point of care test? And I had no answer to that question. I still don't have an answer to that question. That's a separate question altogether, but this was the typical kind of questions that I heard. So it was a very, very different ball game at that point in time. And every day, every single step forward that we took to the platform galvanized us. Then we got to a stage where we had a platform ready, but we had no idea how to take it to scale. Even if we did take it to scale, how would public health adopt this test? How would a country like India invest in this test? How would the world look at a test coming from a place like India? So much of our intermediate stage was, what do we do? How do we do? What is the regulatory part? What is the manufacturing piece? How do you do sales and distribution? And today, of course, is about scaling, and how do we scale in this very difficult time. And that is my presentation. I would like to thank all of you for giving me this very patient hearing.